In the last video, we saw how it's taken Satan centuries to cause the disintegration that we see around us now. In this video, we look at how priests abandoning the traditional mass in the 50s, 60s, 70s caused hell to be unleashed on earth. But the good news is, if it is restored, recovered, then the devil is lost. Previously, we saw that the disintegration of society happens in stages, going through schism, the acceptance of divorce, contraception, abortion, and tending toward transhumanism. In parallel to this, there's also an evaporation of sound philosophy, a detachment from reality, which we can see in nominalism before the Reformation, and then as universities abandon the scholastics, philosophy necessarily falls into absurdities, like David Hume saying cause and effect is an illusion, a construct of our mind. Or Immanuel Kant saying we cannot know the nature of things. If we do not believe things have a nature and we do not understand cause and effect, then the most embarrassing theory that ever called itself scientific breaks out. I mean Darwin's theory of macroevolution. It is philosophically absurd and metaphysically impossible. Yet its purpose is to detach us from our Creator, to make him distant, irrelevant, and the acceptance of macroevolution, as the devil has known, has paved the way for the horror of transhumanism. Priests who are not trained in metaphysics cannot easily resist error, and without true doctrine, one excuses immorality for oneself and for others. Ultimately, one can even become averse to the things of God, even open to idolatry. See how many clerics applauded Pachamama. When a priest changes the way he worships, it is a massive change. The dissolving of so many rubrics of the Mass is like removing a salutary yoke, removing discipline, and priests can become lightweight, for example in confession, telling the penitent that what he's doing is not a sin, and in the worst cases, priests even use the confessional to promote sin, to screen possible victims and to groom them. This is what happened in the seminaries. Now, it should be obvious from history that Christendom has informed and elevated the whole world. And it follows that if the church disintegrates, then the world is abandoned to every spiritual storm. In 1968, we saw the rebellion in the church against Humanae Vitae, and that same year saw demonic student rebellions in Germany, across Europe and America, while poor China suffered an intensification of the Cultural Revolution. It's because we still haven't learned to care much about that we now taste for ourselves the inhumanity of cancel culture, of neighbours denouncing neighbours, of families being divided, of the destruction of historical monuments and rewriting of history books. Altogether an inhumanity which is a foretaste of hell on earth. When the devil shakes the church, at least she has so much spiritual capital from centuries of saints, so some can keep their bearings. But those who are furthest from the church suffer the most. What defences do they have against these storms? We might ask about cause and effect. Is it the liturgical changes that caused the storms to break out? Or is it because the church was already so weakened that the storms were able to bring the liturgy down? Well, there's a long process of interaction, but the spiritual has priority. It is not a coincidence that in 1955, when the church changed Holy Week, that the incidence of clerical sexual abuse began to rocket. Men who think they can mutilate the ancient ceremonies must think they can do anything. There had been a long social and philosophical descent, and so the weakened priesthood was largely overcome. Jesus gave himself to his apostles, and they have passed him on through tradition. So there are millions of saints to hold Rome and the Pope together in Christ. And Rome and the Pope should hold all the bishops of the world together, and bishops hold their priests together in Christ, and priests hold together a few hundred or a few dozen people in their parish. The church has been a great force for order in the world, or now for disorder. Changing to the Novus Ordo was like ripping the backbone out of the world. The Novus is not solid, but formless in comparison with the TLM. It was like the lobotomy for the whole world. The Novus does not shine with the splendour of truth. It does not embody dogma, as the TLM does. Changing to the Novus Ordo was a heart attack for the church, no longer orientated to God, but narcissistically turned toward man, to ourselves, and love of God grows cold. The Mass turns spiritually gay, and we wonder why the world turns gay around us. The hierarchy, which went out to the ends of the earth, is like a nervous system, carrying signals from the Pope and the Curia, through the bishops to the priests to the parishes, and every Catholic has their influence on non-Catholics around them. They are the salt of the earth, seasoning the world. But in sickness or disease, if the nerves should start spontaneously sending signals which have not come from the brain, then the body begins convulsing, which is like priests giving a teaching which is not traditional. Or in the other direction, if the nerves transmit signals to the brain which have not come from a perception of reality, then the mind can become deluded. This is equivalent to the synod on synodality, where the mind of the Church is no longer interested in what God teaches, but is asking the world, what do you want us to become? Or we may think of the worldwide diocesan structure as a skeleton of the body. If bishops are in conflict with each other, it's as if the bones are not joined, and then movement is crippled. Or we can think of missionaries as a circulation in the body. Without the gospel and sacraments going out, parts of the body suffocate and starve. The point is, when the Church is healthy, it holds society together and gives order to the world. The traditional Mass is earnest. The priest is anonymous. It's restful. It's like being exposed to God's eternity. We know our weakness. We know we need the strength of God to uphold us. The yoke and discipline of the rubrics, the crystal clear truth that goes back to St. Thomas and the Apostles, and the example and intercession of the saints, if we're to have a hope of leading a moral life. These saints are trustingly invoked multiple times every single day in the traditional Mass and office. So the devil has been throwing everything he can at the Church for 2,000 years. He seems to be close to a certain kind of success, but he won't make it. In the next video, we'll see how God's victory is assured in eternity, in time, in every single soul that chooses to love him. And we'll see how evil completely exposes its hidden agenda, which then becomes ineffective as we're aware of what they've been trying to do. As Blessed Julian of Norwich said, in the end, all will be well. All manner of things will be well. That is a very holy understatement.